My name is Kali. I am a traditional astrology student. I offer intro to your natal chart tutoring sessions, also synastry readings, which is something I'll be showing today. And I have some other offerings coming out too. Also one on shadow work. And all of this information you can find on my Instagram. And I'm working on a website. Maybe by the time that you were watching this, I actually have one, but maybe. I don't know. So anyways, first, look how cute my cats are. Second, hi. Today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite shows featuring two people that I know a lot about, even though I've never met them. Talk about the show with Trixie Mattel and Katya Zamolodchikova. And I really want to look at their synastry, which if you don't know what that means, it's where we take the natal chart of each of them and we overlay them to create a bi-wheel. And we talk about where different houses are being activated, what conjunctions are happening, and also just like aspects in general in the chart, and what planets are ruling those houses that are being activated, so we can get more context to basically the energy of the relationship and what opportunities or limitations they experience when connecting with each other, right? So I will be using whole sign houses. I have their birth times off of astro.com. Both of them have A ratings. I think Katya's is like AA actually from her birth certificate. Trixie's is 8 a.m. flat, so it's probably a rounded number. But either way, it seems like her moon sign won't change within that hour, and Virgo rising definitely checks out for her considering this synastry, and I also did a different video on her like Saturn return nodes and transits that she had while she was winning All-Stars and participating the first time in season 7. So, yeah, let me see, is there anything else to say? If you like this video, you know, do the thing, like, comment, subscribe, whatever. Follow me on Instagram, same name, Kali Chiron, and please book a reading with me. I have pretty low prices because I'm still a student and I'm still learning, but I do know my shit. Would not be here on this YouTube if I didn't. To start, this is Katya's chart. We'll just like break down some of the basics. So first house is going to be representative of her, and we can find the lord of the first house by looking at the sign, or the planet that rules the sign of Gemini, and that is Mercury. So she has her ruling planet in the 12th house, right here, at 29 degrees of Taurus. And just real quick, I'll say that is very on point for Katya. She's called herself a loner. Very, like, hermit-like tendencies have often been talked about on the show, and otherwise. And it also rules her 4th house of home and family, and she, like, physical home, past, and then also just, like, your private space for yourself. And that's something she takes very seriously. With it being at 29 degrees, that's also the anaretic degree, the fated degree, so it's even more loud, basically, in her chart. The other thing to consider when we're talking about synastry is the 7th house. If the first is you, the other opposite to that is like other people in your life, so it's the axis of me and we, basically. So her we is Sagittarius, which is ruled by Jupiter. She has her Jupiter in the sign of Scorpio in the 6th house. So anything aspecting this Jupiter in synastry is going to show somebody that is going to be a partner in her life, or just have some type of impact in her ideals of partnership. And it just depends on the placement of that planet, how it's aspecting, what other planets it's talking to, blah, blah, blah. Other important things, her moon is in Leo at 23 degrees. That is going to be her emotional inner self. It's also ruling her 2nd house of finances, resources, and skills. And beyond that, MC, this is the highest point in the sky. Medium coli is what it stands for. In Latin, that means top of the sky or highest point in the sky or something like that. And that is your legacy, what you're known for in the public. And hers is at 27 degrees of Aquarius, and Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. She has Saturn in Libra, where it is exalted, I believe is the right word for that. Hold on, let me get my book actually just to double check. I'm not talking mad shit here, but what's interesting is Libra, 17 degrees, 17 degrees of any sign is actually a degree associated with fame, and because it's ruling her legacy, her midheaven, that is a very big sign that this person very well could become famous, and well, like, duh, of course she is, but yeah, just fun fact. Also, 5 degrees is a sign of short-term fame, which is not in her chart, because look at that, she has long-term fame. Alright, Saturn, Libra, yeah, it's exalted there. So anyways, that is Katya's chart. I'll talk about some other things as we get into everything with Trixie. Oh, I guess 2 more things I do want to say. She has her Pisces, her Venus in Pisces in the 10th house of career, which is like so drag queen, because this is also, I believe, Venus in Pisces is exalted. Let me just double check again. Yeah, she's got a lot of exalted planets. But anyways, that's also ruling her 7th house of partnership, because, well, I guess they're both ruled by the Jupiter. That's what I meant. Yeah. So Jupiter rules Sagittarius and Pisces, so her Jupiter is ruling both her 10th house of career and her 7th house of partnership. So a lot of her career business opportunities are likely going to come from her partnerships, which is something else that we'll talk about more when we get to Trixie's chart and how they interact with each other. Last thing I'll say about Katya's chart, she has Neptune pretty close on the descendant, even applying, because this is retrograde. Well, yeah, it's applying, yeah. Anyway, Neptune is associated with fantasy, blurred images, and delusion and addiction. And we all know, if you know anything about Katya, is she's had a long relationship with addiction that has probably been very dynamic. And because this Neptune is ruled by Jupiter in the 6th, it might even come from routines. It might come from health-related things. How she treats her physical body, and so on. Like, I don't know, we're not trying to delineate that exactly, but I just thought that was interesting. And there's some synastry with that Neptune on her descendant and some of Trixie's placements. So I just thought I would mention that. Okay, let's move on. So now we'll just quickly, I did a whole video on Trixie's chart, so I'm not really going to talk a lot about it. Just, go watch that if you want to know more. But some important things to point out is same thing. Trixie is a Virgo rising. She is ruled by Mercury in her 1st house at 26 degrees. Her 7th house of partnership ends up being Pisces. And the Jupiter that is ruling that is also exalted, like a lot of Katya's placements, in Cancer in the 11th house. So same thing, anything that is going to be aspecting this is going to tell us a lot about her 7th house of partnership, and also her 4th house of private life, roots, family, home, well, stuff like that. Other things to consider, she is a Gemini midheaven. She has a Gemini midheaven, so that is also ruled by that Mercury in her 1st house. And something that we'll talk about when we get into their synastry is just how they're known as such mercurial people. Like, they host a talk show, also of just like utter randomness, which like we'll get more into. But beyond that, Trixie is one of the most rich Rue girls who, not even from like winning All Stars, spoiler I guess, but like building her own empire and brand. And she's got Venus, also I believe, yeah, in domicile in Libra in the 2nd house. Like, major bag alert or whatever the TikTok kiddos say. Anyways, okay, God, that was cringy. Let's talk Synastry. So, a little book here. Made a lot of really chaotic notes. I don't know if you can see that, but let's get into it. Okay, so as you can see here, on the inner wheel we have Trixie, so this one right here. On the outer wheel we have Katya out here. Alright, so the first thing that I kind of already mentioned was just how so much of just each of their charts individually points to them being known as mercurial people, because they're both ruled by Mercury. Katya is a Gemini rising, and Trixie is a Virgo rising. Trixie's midhaven, her legacy, which she's known for, is also ruled by Mercury, which is in her first house, so of herself. So she's very known for literally like being herself, right? Like showing herself to the world. Which might seem kind of obvious and like, oh, everyone's known for that, but that's not true. You know, like not a lot of people are actually famous for literally like an identity that they've created, and that is, you know, kind of what a drag queen is. It definitely is what a drag queen is, but anyways, and they're arguably the most known for that talk show, where they just talk about the most, you know, random, chaotic things. And they also have a podcast called The Bold and the Beautiful, and I think so many more people are excited and interested and, you know, connected to, than their portrayals on RuPaul's Drag Race. That gave them a lot of opportunities, but it wasn't necessarily, you know, their legacy and what they're known for. I think for, like, a lot of people, what they're known for is, But anyways, looking at the 7th house of partnership, you'll notice right here, again, this is Katya's chart on the outside, her Venus is 5 degrees off of Trixie's descendant. And Trixie's descendant could even be a few more degrees this way, just because she said 8 a.m. and we don't have an exact time. But I find that really interesting, as they literally do drag together, which is about beauty. So a partnership of beauty, also exalted in Pisces, so it's sort of like beauty that's not like girl next door beauty, but very like in modern astrology, Neptune rules Pisces, and it's very like higher octave, like ethereal beauty, like drawing the whites of your eyes on your face and giant lashes type of beauty. So I don't know, I sort of like that. Also, if you've ever seen editing on Oooh, that's very like Venus and Pisces, just incredible. So this definitely shows a connection of wacky, weird, but like also beautiful, like strange, like the kind of connection that makes you just like want to laugh and like have like a really cool, weird time, you know? So I love that. Also, not only is it on her descendant, but her, Trixie's ruling planet is at 26 degrees of Mercury, exactly opposite of that. So not only is she a partner to her, but I think this oppositions are Saturn-ruled aspects, 180 degrees apart. And I really like oppositions in my own personal life with people, because it teaches you a lot about where you could grow, like where you have to go from. Like, it's not to say to make you feel insecure. I think some people who don't like oppositions in Synastry will fall under that category sometimes, but having your Mercury really dignified in Virgo, and even having a Pisces Venus that's exalted, both of these planets are doing pretty good. So I think this type of connection that they have brings out the best in each other, like honestly. And let's see, for Katya, Venus rules her 5th house of creativity and her 12th house, which has a lot of her natal placements there. 12th house of basically anything that's hidden. So we have the subconscious there, we have hidden enemies, we have self-sabotaging behaviors. You could put addiction there, I guess, if it's like anxiety, for example, her addiction to anxiety, as RuPaul said. But yeah, so I think having that opposition, I think Trixie brings out a lot of those, she activates those planets, just like doing that opposition for Katya. And then on top of that, I think she brings a lot of conversation to it. And I think it gives Katya a lot of clarity about how to balance and harmonize, you know, those elements of her 5th house of creation. What does she want to create? Who is she trying to create with? And then also her 12th house, like where is she like self-sabotaging? And I'm not saying like Trixie is some kind of therapist for her or anything to like talk her through all of those things, but I think she just makes her aware of where she might be limiting herself, you know? So I think that's a beautiful synastry that they've got going on there. Okay, I'm gonna switch this back the way I had it before. All right, other things that I have. Katya's Jupiter, which we have in the sign of right here, Scorpio, is, if you look at this, 4 degrees. It is exactly trining, because these are both water signs. So their triplicities, meaning there's 3 different water signs. 4 degrees, they're trining each other. And for Katya, Jupiter rules, or for Trixie, I mean, sorry. Jupiter rules her 7th house of partnerships. So, and it's also natally, her Jupiter, Trixie, in her 11th house of communities, which if you're famous, can also encompass your fans. So I see this a few different ways. One way that I really see this working out is having your Jupiter trine somebody else's Jupiter. Is just like, there's a lot of opportunities that can come from that. And where it falls in your houses and what houses it rules will give you more context to what kind of opportunities. And for Trixie, this is an opportunity of partnership because it rules her 7th house. On top of that, let's see, for Katya, Jupiter rules her, also her 7th house of partnership because she's Sagittarius. Oh, and her 10th house of career. So career opportunities. So their Jupiters are exactly trining each other, 4 degrees of water signs, both ruling their 7th houses of partnership. And then for Trixie, it's her 4th house as well, and Katya, it's her 10th house. So they both find opportunities for connecting with other people one-on-one, like the show for example. And then for Katya, that leads to a lot of career opportunities that she otherwise wouldn't have access to without Trixie, which is really true. No shade to Katya. If you're watching this, hey, my friend gave you teeth one time. But she just doesn't, you know, like really seek out those opportunities, and she said that before, and I think Trixie really pushes her to do those things. I think, interestingly, their connection for Trixie pushes Trixie to spend more time at home or value her alone time more, because if you are a Sagittarius rising, while Jupiter's in Pisces, it's in your 4th house, and I know a lot of people that having that transit have just like had way more increased alone time or value for alone time, which I think is beautiful. But having this Jupiter trine and then ruling Trixie's 4th house, it could also be like improvements to her house, you know, through her partnership with Katya. She's maybe been able to get more money and put that towards a home. I don't know. You know, this is where a consult is really useful because I can actually talk to people, but right now we're just guesstimating based on the archetypes of the signs and the houses. So anyway, beyond that, we have, oh yeah, this beautiful conjunction of the moon and, oh, let me switch these back. This is Trixie's Taurus moon at 27 degrees and Katya's Mercury, also in Taurus, at 29 degrees. So this one is really interesting. So again, this is Katya's Lord of the First, meaning it rules her 1st house. It also rules her 10th house of career. And Trixie has an exalted moon in Taurus right on top of that. And for Trixie, this rules her 11th house of, like I said, communities, friends, fans. First of all, just simply, this is like a relationship where talking is huge, if that wasn't already clear. Being Trixie and having your moon conjunct somebody else's Mercury, I think through their relationship, a lot of what she's feeling comes out with Katya and she's able to talk about it. Or the way she feels is very in line with the way Katya talks. I've also seen people who have Moon Mercury conjunctions just thinking like each other are like the funniest people, which this is true for like both these people outside of this relationship, but I think they especially make each other laugh, because to me, I think a lot of your humor lies in your moon sign, but it also comes down to your Mercury as well, for sure. And having both of those in the same sign, I think they're just really able to like hit a stride with their comedy, and bounce off of each other in a way that's like really organic. Not because it's like harmonious or complimentary, but just because like they're so similar in like the way that they want to joke about things, or they just see eye to eye at least. So that's cool. And then also, like I said, Mercury for Katya is ruling her 10th house of career, right? Okay, let me make sure that I didn't say that the wrong way. No. Oh, Trixie. That's what I meant. Yeah, Trixie's 10th house. Yeah, because she's the Gemini midheaven. So with that, and then this is Katya's first house, and then her 4th house of home. Interesting. Yeah, I don't really see this as a placement where they're like necessarily going to hang out a lot, which is something they've also talked about before, just because Katya's Mercury rules her 4th house. And then, let's see, for Trixie, rules her 11th house of community and partnership. So, like, I could see this again, sort of as Trixie really getting Katya to, like, come out of the house. Very hermity to have Mercury at 29 degrees of Taurus. But anyways, I think that's just a beautiful conjunction for just having a really close friendship, where you don't really need to explain a lot of things. Moon in Taurus is very just like feeling things and without really needing to say them, and just having like an unspoken understanding with that Mercury conjunction. That's how I see it, at least. Beyond that, oh, nodal synastry. So the nodes, which, check out my new tattoos. They're the nodes. Also, I burned myself. I'm a barista and I burned myself on a steam wand. How rude, right? But anyways, the nodes in astrology. So we have, right here is the North Node, and then down here we have the South Node, and on the outer ring we have Katya. And then Trixie's are right here, North Node, Aquarius, South Node, in Leo. Now the nodes, there's a lot of dispute on the nodes. How I like to look at them, well, it really depends, because in Synastry I think you use it a little differently. Some people like to say with the North Node that it's like your mission in this life, what you're moving towards, sort of like the archetype that you're not living in at the beginning of your life, but you slowly come into power with, if that makes sense. Like maybe you see it, you're surrounded by a lot of people who have your North Node sign, or you admire qualities of your North Node sign, or wherever the ruler of your North Node is, like you're attracted to things like that, but you just don't have it quite yet, like it's not tangible in your life, you're working towards it. And then with the South Node, a lot of people say that's like comfort zone, where you've been before. Some people say past lives. Some people say karmic relationships. You get the vibe, right? So I like to think of it simply as North Node, what you're going towards, what's your mission, what's the game plan, what should you be kind of mindful of in this life and almost centering yourself towards, in whatever way it feels natural. And then I do like to think of the South Node sometimes as past lives in terms of synastry, or even just like shared experiences that you've had, even in this life, that you can relate to with a person. Transiting stuff, I look at them very differently, but that's not what we're talking about right now. But anyways, they've got nodal synastry, which is fascinating to me, and also I think kind of speaks to why Katya feels so comfortable working with Trixie. And that's not to say Trixie doesn't feel the other, like, the same way, but there's been many interviews where Katya has said, like, I don't know why we work together so well, but we do. And I think a lot of it comes down to, it's just really organic. Like, they have a really give and take relationship that doesn't feel any type of way. So anyways, let's look first at, on the outside, remember we have Katya. So her north node of what she's like moving towards, her mission, her destiny, what her focus should be, is pretty closely conjunct, although it's not applying, Trixie's Chiron. Now Chiron in mythology is the wounded healer, and if you want to know more about it, I think I'm going to do a video about it, but it's not out yet. Maybe it is by the time you're watching this. But long story short, your Chiron placement is going to show where you've been hurt, where you're likely to be hurt, but also where through that hurt you're healing other people. And with a north node conjunct someone else's Chiron, I could see the Chiron person, being Trixie, having a healing energy, or something that at least brings out what needs to be healed in Katya that she otherwise may ignore or not be totally presently aware of. And it being in Cancer, I think that has a lot to do with nurturing. I just think of Cancer being water and cardinal as like the beginning of like coming to terms with like, we are the ebb and the flow, we are human beings, we are not consistent. I like to think of like visually Cancer as like a wave, because the wave like pushes the water, and when you have your north node there, like that, you have to be the one to like push that wave and go towards and nurture yourself, you know, and create that consistency that you need. So, you know, interesting. Yeah, so basically I just sort of see this as Trixie being a healing type of energy for Katya, also with this falling in Trixie's 11th house. A lot of her fame is very tied to Katya, and I think, let's see, for Katya this falls in her 2nd house. A lot of Katya's recognition of her skills and resources and talent and money, and just a sense of security comes from Trixie to some degree. And I won't delineate more than that just because, like I said, it's better to have a consult with a person to talk about that and build more context, but archetypally, that's what I see there. Alright, there's nothing really conjuncting Katya's south node. Neptune's kind of close, but it's like a 6-degree orb, so like we're not even really gonna look at that. But as far as Trixie's nodes, there are conjunctions for both of them. So Trixie's north node, right here in Aquarius, is exactly on top of Katya's, well, 2 degrees off, but Katya's midhaven, that is ruled by that 7-degree Saturn in Libra, exalted. So I sort of see this similarly where it could have been in, like, I don't know, like, yeah, I guess a similar thing to this North Node situation in the 11th house over here, if this is, like, fans, community, and, like, cultures of whatever you belong to, North Node in conjunction with the Midhaven, a lot of Trixie's legacy, again, is really tied to Katya's fame as well. Like, they just have synastry that is very, through the connection of each other with Chiron, like, it's a lot of nurturing, healing, like, bringing things to the surface so you can, like, strive in a sense of security and resources for Katya. But then for Trixie, her North Node conjunct that Saturn-ruled Midhaven for Katya, I think that structure, that Saturnian realness of, like, helping Katya use that energy and actually create things that she's fully capable of, but otherwise would maybe be like a little bit too lazy to do, has a lot to do with her North Node there. And now that I think of it, later this year, Saturn is going to be exactly on Trixie's North Node, though it will retrograde. I think it gets to 25 degrees though. That'll be interesting to see how that happens with the whole Trixie Motel thing that's going on. But anyways, let's go to the South Node, because this one's really interesting to me. So Trixie's South Node at 25 degrees is applying to Katya's Leo moon, which falls in Katya's 4th house of home, family, and like private self, private life, whatever. So as far as like past lives and whatnot go, when I see a South Node conjunct a personal planet like the moon or Venus or the sun, maybe Mercury too, I do kind of think that's an interesting delineation to toy with. Maybe they knew each other in a past life, or maybe even, like, if we want to talk archetypally, the experiences that Katya had in her past related to emotions, not like financial situations or anything like that, could be something that is relatable to Trixie. Like, if you watch the show you know that, of course, Trixie grew up in Wisconsin, which, me too, in a very poor family, which, me too, and Katya, as Trixie likes to joke, grew up with a silver spoon in her mouth and bought $500 leather pants in Montreal or something one time. I don't know, whatever. Like, they come from very different backgrounds. Katya being a health and fitness, yoga, Catholic family, and Trixie growing up in a trailer as a middle child with nail polish, plucking a guitar, you know. So, that said, could be, like, literally in a past life that they were some type of emotional connection. They had some type of emotional connection with each other. The moon for Katya ruling her 2nd house of resources, skills, and whatnot. And then this is also sun ruled, with it being in Leo. Sun for Katya falls in Trixie's 9th house. And then the sun for Katya falls, the sun for Trixie falls in Katya's Virgo. It's just too much to visualize in my head. Oh, in her 4th house. Oh, in her 4th house. Past. Family. Yeah, so, I don't know, if you want to be woo with it, we could say that maybe in a past life, they were family. Maybe. Or you could say that there's some type of shared, specifically for Katya, emotional experience with skills, resources, with it ruling her 2nd house. And I don't mean resources in terms of money, per se, but just more like, maybe just the way that she, like, naturally, comfort zone, default, processes her emotions, is just something that Katya can really, or Trixie, I mean, can really relate to with her South Node being there. So, also, to consider the moon, right, opposite Trixie's North Node, because, like, that aspect is also happening always with these different placements. Yeah, I guess in the same aspect, Katya's moon in Leo, opposite that North Node, opposite even her own midheaven. I think that North Node really, like, literally, if we're talking, like, the planets communicate to each other with, like, these lines in the middle, imagine a line like this existing right here. I think this literally, like, sends that moon to the forefront of her midheaven and creates a persona through that North Node connection that otherwise Katya would really struggle to show to the world, because otherwise, you know, it's like literally in the bottom of her chart, way down here. So, yeah. The last thing that I want to talk about is addiction with Katya and Trixie and how that's really played out in each other's lives. So right here, and right now let's switch these back again so Katya's on the outside. We have, oh actually no, we're gonna go the other way because then it's right here. So we have Katya in the middle, this is her Neptune, and down here we have Trixie's Mercury. Both of these are at 26 degrees. Both of these are immutable signs, which if you don't know what that means, each of the elements, so earth, air, water, fire, have a different modality, and the modality is based on when the seasons start. So because Virgo happens at the end of summer, it's the change of the season, it's called mutable. And the same goes for Sagittarius because it's the end of fall into winter, so it's the change of the season, so they're mutable. And when mutable planets talk to each other, it's a square, which is this red line right here. So we have Katya's Mercury squaring that Neptune, which is also like probably says even more about her connection to her addiction, where she like doesn't know when to stop. That Mercury exalted in Pisces is like just wants more, which can be good and bad, but like for in terms of career, it's probably good for the planets aspecting it otherwise. But what I find really interesting is the square that's happening between the Lord of Trixie's first, so herself, also being Mercury, ruling conversations and discussions, and then this Neptune that's in Katya's seventh of partnership, which is ruling things like addiction. And if you've ever seen the Moving Parts documentary or know anything, any Trixie Katya lore, there's this whole stint of where they started to do the Trixie Katya show, and then Katya like quit, sort of had like, I don't know what word to use, but fucking cancel it if you want, I guess, like a psychotic break, some type of episode where she like, I think relapsed, I think went to rehab, and just like basically had a whole other relationship with addiction and a whole nother learning experience, and a lot of that had to do with her partnership with Trixie. So I just sort of find this really interesting. I think squares are a lot about courage, and squares are ruled by Mars, and a lot of people are scared of Mars. I'm scared of Mars. This happened when Mars was at 29 degrees of my ascendant, so maybe book a transit reading with me so I can tell you when Mars is going to be fucking your shit up. But anyways, Mars is a lot about courage. It's about taking the action that you're too scared to do. And I think with Trixie having her ruling planet square that Neptune, also opposite the Venus that wants to keep giving it more, she is like making Katya very aware of her connection with addiction, almost because Trixie like doesn't have a concept for it. Like Trixie, her Mercury squaring that, like it doesn't make any sense to her. Neptune is all about confusion too. So having your Mercury square someone's Neptune, you won't really get what they're saying, especially being a mutable sign like that, especially having a really dignified, like domiciled Virgo Mercury, like you're used to things making sense, and when you meet a person that doesn't, it's fascinating. Neptune things, like you wanna try to figure it out and like unblur the image to see it in like totality, but that's very stressful, I think, for the Neptune person being Katya, and I think just brings a lot of things to the forefront where you really have to be like, what's like, what do I feel this way, like what's going on, which, because this is forming a T-square with like the Venus over here too, these two planets are having a conversation about this one, and that's kind of like the release point is what people call it in astrology. So this Mercury in Virgo is like thinking logically, talking logically. If it's embodying Trixie, it's like, okay, this is the gig, this is what we need to do for the gig, you know? And then this is the ruler of Katya's, or wait, no, they're just both ruled by Jupiter. Sorry, I keep saying that. But anyways, this is in her 10th house. This is in Katya's 10th house of like career and legacy and whatnot. And so these two planets are like, this is the gig, this is how we can harmonize the gig, this is how we can look good for the gig, this is like a good opportunity to like show our beauty, our potential, blah, 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 blah. But then this like struggle with addiction, this struggle with relying on the connection of fantasy and just not living in like reality is tedious. Something that has to be a focal point to be able to harmonize all of the other placements. And I think ultimately, I'll stop talking about it now, I need to wrap this up, but I think Trixie just helps Katya accept that she can't just like have all these problems and not do anything about it. I think Trixie is a really good friend for that based on this. I think with like this Venus ruling her 5th, that's what it was, she really sees all of her creative possibilities and sees what a like wonderful person Katya is and how much potential she has, and this Mercury is talking to that Neptune and kind of bullying it and kind of telling it like, you gotta face this, like you can't just keep fucking up this person's life and giving them a connection to addiction that throws everything out the window. So you know, that's what I have to say about it. So, I don't know, I hope you enjoyed this. Again, my name is Kali. I am a student astrologer. I also do tarot. I have an Instagram, Kali Chiron. I'm on Twitter, but I don't really understand it. I just follow drag queens and other astrologers, and I just like nod at things, but it's kind of a scary place, so I haven't really tried to engage much with it. But yeah, like, comment, share. Please book a reading with me. I would love to talk to you about your synastry. You don't have to be in a relationship to do a reading like that. I can just, you know, look at your chart, like Katya's, for example, tell you the ruler of the 7th. I could even tell you what places you're likely to meet the person, looking at the dignity and house placement of your ruler of the 7th. Or I can just do a tutoring session with you about your birth chart. So that's that. Comment, let me know what you think of my makeup. I did it, and then I was like, oh god, I look like a clown. And then I kind of liked it, and then I was like, well, it's done. You know? So, okay, bye!